Being a 5th year at Hogwarts is tough. You've got to catch up on classes, save hippogriffs from poachers, discover the secret of ancient magic, and stop an evil goblin uprising, all before dinner. My name is Codiak, this is Legacy Gaming, and today I'm going to teach you how to avoid all of the mistakes I made in Hogwarts Legacy. Hogwarts Legacy is a traditional open world game in the sense that there is just so much to see and do, and it's all just thrown at you. In this video, we're going to focus on largely the early to mid part of the game and really help you unlock the world so that you can take advantage of everything Hogwarts Legacy has to offer. It's not necessarily about doing something fast or rushing to beat the game, just being smart about your progression. And with that in mind, let's dive in. Hogwarts Legacy truly hits its stride once the open world is unlocked. It's incredibly easy to get sucked into exploring every nook and cranny of Hogwarts Castle, but there's a great big wizarding world out there to explore, and trust me when I say, Hogwarts isn't going anywhere. I strongly recommend you push through just the early parts of the main story, until you unlock Hogsmeade and the surrounding Scottish countryside. Not only does this give you full access to the world, but it also means all of those points of interest are now ripe for the picking. At this point, you can really focus on whatever you want, whether it's side quests, collectibles, or something else entirely. Once you unlock the open world, make sure to zoom all the way out on the map, and you'll see a handy key which lets you know all of the activities in a given area. You won't necessarily see each of those nodes when you zoom in, some need to be discovered, but don't worry, we've got a handy tip for that too. While exploring the open world, hop on your broomstick and use Revelio. You can continue to fly while using this spell, and it will reveal all of the points of interest in your area. This will help you locate those hidden POIs and fully uncover the secrets of an area. This is also the single best way to locate potion ingredients out in the world. You can't grow everything that you need in the Room of Requirement, so be sure to keep your head on a swivel. Finally, since the entire wizarding world is at your disposal, take the time to unlock various flu points around the world. I promise putting in a little effort now goes a long way to making your journey back to these parts of the world later easier. You'll be fast traveling around quite a bit as you progress various missions, so lay the groundwork for some speedy fast travel ahead of time and you'll save yourself a bit of hassle. On the heels of that last tip, I do want to talk briefly about questing. One of the easiest things to do is get distracted by quests that don't necessarily reward anything meaningful. Don't get me wrong, I think conjuring little knickknacks for your Room of Requirement is awesome, but not quite as awesome as unlocking a new spell. I recommend focusing all of your early efforts on unlocking all of your spells as soon as possible. I can't stress how much more fun Hogwarts Legacy is once you have spells at your disposal. Keep a watchful eye on your quest log. As soon as a professor's assignment comes in, one that rewards a spell, focus your efforts there. You can always come back and tackle all of the side content you've skipped at any point later on in the game, but now you have full access to an arsenal of spells to help you accomplish those tasks. There's one small hang-up with focusing on professor assignments. Oftentimes, they require you to brew, grow, or purchase something in order to complete the quest. This is where Codiak's early money-making tips come in handy. First off, never buy plants or potions outright. They are such a galleon sink, and quite frankly, you don't have coin to spare. A better option is to buy the recipe or seeds that you need to complete the quest. My advice here is to wait until you actually receive the quest to purchase the recipe or seeds. That's just the most efficient way to go about it. In order to fund this endeavor, you really only have a few options. For some quick coin, you can use the Disillusionment Charm and hunt down these eye chests. There are a number of them in Hogwarts and around Hogsmeade, and they'll always reward 500 galleons. Your only other viable option at this point is to sell gear. Now, here's the thing. Gear rarity is the only thing that determines its sell value in the game. That means you could have a level 5 orange item and a level 20 green item, and the orange is always going to sell for more, 200 galleons to be precise. This is important as you're exploring the world because at some point, your bags are going to be full and your only two options are to leave the item in the chest or destroy something in your inventory. When in doubt, only ever destroy green items. The item you pick up to replace that will be at a minimum a green, so you're not missing out. With these two things in mind, you should be able to scrape together enough galleons to make necessary purchases. And I want to stress that because you can waste a lot of money on pointless things when you could really stretch your galleons and make them work for you. Since gear is one of the only ways to make money early on in the game, we might as well take just a few minutes to give ourselves even more flexibility when it comes to how much we can carry, which ultimately means how much we can sell. By completing Merlin Trial challenges in the open world, you can quickly expand your inventory by a few slots. You can expand your inventory the first time by completing 2 Merlin Trials, and the second time by completing 6 more Merlin Trials. That will give you 8 additional inventory slots, which is a 40% increase over the default 20 slots. You can, of course, continue to complete Merlin Trials for additional slots, but Challenge Tier 3 requires 10 more Merlin Trials to unlock, which is just a bridge too far, at least for me, in the early parts of the game. Again, the idea is efficiency, and since Merlin Trials are relatively quick, completing 8 of them just to knock off 2 upgrades isn't a heavy lift. Remember, you do need to have Mallow Sweet Leaves with you to activate a Merlin Trial, but as I said above, don't buy the plants from the shop, just buy the seeds for 200 galleons and plant your own. After just the first harvest, you've already made up the loss, and now you have a way to consistently get more. Since we are in the Room of Requirement, there's a lot of little things I think we should talk about. First, since you're now rolling in dough, I'd highly recommend you spring for a large potting table from Tomes and Scrolls. This allows you to begin planting combat plants, but also allows you to grow smaller plants like Dittany once you've capped out on combat plants. Don't sleep on these combat plants either, they are super powerful even without any talent upgrades. My personal favorites are the Chinese Chomping Cabbage and the Venomous Tentacula, both of which deal considerable amounts of damage in combat. You can even upgrade the Tentacula to break shields once you unlock the 3rd tier of talents in the Room of Requirement, which is even more valuable on the hardest difficulty because Stupefy, the perfect Protego counter, doesn't break shields. Again, and I know I'm a broken record here, don't ever buy these plants outright, buy the seeds. One harvest and they've paid for themselves, and those seeds are good from now on, and you can plant them whenever you want. Remember when using the Room of Requirement that each type of conjuration has a maximum limit. The goal should always be to try and reach that limit so you have the most amount of supplies rolling in. At some point you might cap out on how many combat plants you have because your inventory is limited, and that's when you switch to growing herbs for potions, all of which can be accommodated in those large pots. If you're short on moonstones at the start, go ahead and remove some of the stock decorations that come with the Room of Requirement. This will net you an okay amount, but if you have the coin, you can spring for the Material Refiner from Tomes and Scrolls that produces 10 moonstones every 10 minutes. Get 3 of these running and you'll never have an issue conjuring again. Finally, and I say this playing exclusively on the hardest difficulty in the game, don't forget to constantly brew Wiggenweld potions. You'll need them, a lot of them. Now, I know, get good, but Hogwarts Legacy is challenging, and you don't want a pointless death to slow you down, so keep up with brewing these in your spare time. Keep an eye out for Horklumps while flying across the Highlands, as you'll need a healthy supply to keep brewing Wiggenweld potions. Switching gears, let's talk about locked rooms and buildings in Hogwarts Legacy. This one is simple. Don't sweat them until you get the Caretaker's Lunar Lament quest. This happens after the first trial and is a main quest, so you quite literally can't miss it. Gladwin Moon, Hogwarts Caretaker, gives you a quest that ultimately teaches you Alohomora. We've seen a lot of comments of people confused and frustrated, thinking they missed some key part of the game, and that's simply not the case. If you want to unlock rank 2 and rank 3 locks, well then you'll need to continue collecting demiguise statues for our friend Mr. Moon. We have a video already on the channel breaking down the exact location of every moon you could possibly need to complete that quest, so check it out. And oh yeah, don't sweat the dozens of locked doors you run by before this point. You'll get there, I promise. One thing you might have to sweat is running into a game-breaking bug. They exist, and they can completely gate your progression. That's why I always recommend you utilize the manual save slots within your game. Don't rely on the autosave to bail you out, because if the stars align in the worst possible way, you could be completely stuck in your progression. We'd recommend saving to a manual file once every play session. That way, you're never too far behind should you have to use it. Likewise, if you want to revisit any of the 4 seasons within Hogwarts Legacy, the only way to do that is by loading up a manual save from within that season. At the time of making this video, there is no way to toggle the seasons once you beat the game, which is a huge shame. Hopefully that changes, but for now, you're stuck in whatever season you're currently progressing in. One of the best things you can do early is start clearing bandit camps. These are quick, combat-focused pieces of content that not only sharpen your skills as a witch or wizard, but also reward you with an all-important trait. Now, these are randomized, so you can't hunt down exactly what you need or want, but get in the habit of clearing these out when you see them, because you never know what trait you might receive as a reward. I personally put these off until much later in the game, at which point it was almost a bit pointless. I cleared a large chunk of the content, and those traits I unlocked would have been a huge help in some more challenging aspects of the main story. These take no time to complete, allow you to experiment with spells and combinations in a very real combat scenario, and reward something incredibly valuable, so don't pass them up. If you do the work now, by the time you unlock the Loom, you'll have a nice treasure trove of traits ready to sock it into your gear. Since you're opting in to go take on some dark wizards, might I also recommend you focus on completing the dueling feats that pop up whenever you engage in combat. These might seem pointless, but they actually tie directly to a challenge. Now, the rewards are cosmetic, but there's no denying that's a huge part of this game. Plus, you'll need to complete a large portion of the field guide if you want to take part in the OWLs, experience the House Cup feast, and technically beat the game. Finally, let's talk talents. This is one of the most important aspects of Hogwarts Legacy, but there's a very real catch. You can't unlock everything in the game, at least not at this point. There is word and rumor that a respec potion was found in the game files, but it's unclear if that was just a clever way for devs to test out their systems, or if it's something the team planned to implement. Either way, let's plan for the worst and really be strategic about our options. You heard us talk a bit about talents in our Wish I Knew Sooner tips and tricks video, and while I definitely recommend you go check that out, I think we need to go a bit deeper. First, be sure to unlock spell knowledge in the core tree. This will give you the ability to expand your spell pages, which you can swap in real time during combat. This will prevent you from having to go into your menus and move around spells, which is just a pain. Second, consider picking up Swift again in the core tree. This enhances your dodge roll and gives you a sort of short distance teleport. While on the ground, this is both a solid defensive pick, but also helps you get around the world much faster, especially in areas like Hogsmeade that are no-fly zones. After that, you really need to think about what aspect of Hogwarts Legacy you want to embrace and lean into that. If you're someone that doesn't really care about combat and really just wants to walk around the world and collect everything they possibly can, well then, Revelio Mastery is probably for you. If combat is something you care about, then I recommend focusing on talents that directly benefit your playstyle. For example, nothing in the stealth tree appeals to me personally because I have zero desire to play this game in stealth, so I choose not to waste my points. That doesn't mean the tree isn't strong though, and if popping an invisibility potion and taking out an entire group of enemies with Petrificus Totalis is something you enjoy, by all means, take the talents. In the spell talent tree, you also want to consider what spells you actually use and if the benefit is worth the point. A perfect example, in the beginning of the game, I really thought Incendio was a spell I would use a ton during my playthrough, but as I unlocked things like Confringo, I realized that the limited range of Incendio didn't work for my playstyle. Since I had already used a talent point to enhance that spell, it was essentially a wasted point, as I really don't use Incendio in my core rotation. It's those little conversations with yourself that will guide you as you pick the right talents for your playstyle. By focusing on enhancements that match the way you want to play, you're guaranteed to get the most out of the game. And you can take that to Gringotts. So there you have it. If it's not crystal clear, I definitely made some mistakes during my first dozen or so hours with the game, but hopefully now you know better than I did and you won't fall into those same pitfalls. Guys, if you appreciate videos like this that get straight to the point and you want more content like this in your feeds, do me a solid, hit that thumbs up and consider subscribing. Legacy Gaming has a ton more planned for Hogwarts Legacy, so stick around so you never miss a new video. I also want to invite you to join the Legacy Gaming community on Discord. We recently reworked our entire server, so if you're looking for a place to hang out, win free prizes, talk about great games like Hogwarts Legacy, and group up with friends, check out the link in the description below. My name is Codiak, and from everyone here at Legacy Gaming, thanks for watching, and play on.